Okay, so in previous class we talked about CRUD operations. Basically the operations which deals in databases and perform some basic operations, read, write, update, delete. And we did that by using certain methods: save, update, get, delete. The key thing is, if you are using CRUD operations or want to perform CRUD operations, you have to understand that these method needs object and that object needs ID. Without it you cannot perform any of the operation. So that we also uh, like kind of implemented every time we were passing any object. So it was taking ID, like here employee takes ID, and next example we use this. So here we use get method, get takes obviously it's kind of object or ID and then a primary key. Then we used update method, update also has the object and the ID we have passed 7. Same goes for the delete. We use delete method, delete takes object and the ID is already here. So every time object is required with the primary key. Why I am focusing this again and again? Because when we start Spring Boot, the ultimate goal of our training, there we will do all these kind of stuffs. So I don't want you guys confused why I am using IDs or object, because that plays a critical role here when we are requesting the front end to interact with back end. So this is mandatory. You guys should know that I have to pass always object. Always plays a critical role here. We calling it entity. Entity is really uh, have a higher weightage here to perform. Okay. Now today we will see the mapping. Mapping is really important part again, because it's not just one class or two class. We will deal with lots of Java classes in a project. So how it works, you should know. Okay, so when we say mapping, it has, first of all, let me write the names, then we'll understand what is mapping. So one to one, one to many, many to one, come on, and finally many to many. Okay, so that's the mapping, and we are going to perform all these in Hibernate. So what these are, one to one stuff, let's see. So when we are talking about mapping, so it is kind of similar what we saw in, or we haven't discussed it, but let me discuss it here. So in core Java, we have two types of a relationship between two Java classes. So first is inheritance. Okay. So when we talk about inheritance, so there we saw is a relationship. Okay. That's what happens when we say inheritance is a relationship. In core Java, we also has a relationship. Okay. So how we can read it? Let's create one example to understand it. Let's say we have a class animal, and I'm going to create a class lion. Obviously, animal is a parent class and lion is a child class. So if I have to explain this to someone, lion is a animal, right? That's how we spell it, or to say something. Mute, mute, mute. Okay, so when we have to speak to someone, I can say animal is one class, lion is one class. But as soon as lion extends animal, we can say is a relationship is here. So how do we read it technically? If I have to read technical terms, so it says lion is a animal, and definitely it makes sense. Lion is animal and it is animal. So we are obtaining here is a relationship. Fine. Let's do a different way. I'm going to get a different class. Let's say user. Okay, I'm going to get one user class. Let me check what database tables we have. Okay, we already have a user, because I'm going to create a class actually. Ultimately, we will have class. Let's create a person class, and then I have taken this sample multiple times, so I figured out it is great to understand. So let's say one class is person, one class is passport. Okay, well, let's put it this way. Now, if I have to connect this, so passport will have its own, uh, you know, uh, fields or properties. So ID, and let's say country. I'm going to add two fields. Person. So person will have its own ID. ID is must, right? Without ID, you cannot proceed. Same goes in all the Java classes. If you have a class, make sure that it has ID, which ID and ID will act as a primary key. It has no other purpose. It will act as a primary key, and then a name. Okay. So in real terms, person will have a passport as well if they have to visit outside the country. So how it goes? It goes like passport. So ID has the type int, name has a type string, but passport, it's a variable name, so it will have a type of passport. Right. Capital P, it's a class name. Small p, that's a reference or object reference. Okay, so these are the types: int, string, and passport. Okay, now if I have to read this out, how would I say? Person has passport. So what relationship we have here? It says person has a passport. So it makes sense, yeah, and that's how Java works. So whenever any object is used within a class, we call this has a password, has a passport. And here we say is a, where we have a inheritance. So in inheritance, it's a is a relationship. When a class is like this way, we call this has a password. I'm not going to use any more technical term because my focus is on one-to-one here, and I just want to make clear what I'm up to here. So I'll create two different entity class, and I'll use one class in a different class. No extends, no implements, just use its reference in another class, and that's how we achieve mapping. So in this class, I can continue with one-to-one mapping. So I'll say copy, next paint, and then here I can proceed with one-to-one mapping. So first is person is 1 and password is also 1. So here we're talking about one-to-one. Okay, so let's put it this way. I'll copy this class. Here it goes, and I'll create a different class, passport. Okay, and then if I have to connect a relationship between these two classes, so person is 1, passport is 1. That's the ideal solution when user is 1 and password is also using 1. So that's a one-to-one relationship. And in Hibernate, we have one annotation which can perfectly works here. We use this at one-to-one annotation. This is the annotation you have to use, and it will work smoothly. Just one annotation and you are good to go. Fine. So let's see how we can implement it. So this is what we're going to achieve. We will create two different entity classes, and then one reference goes here. There I've used it. We highlight it as well. This is the class I'm going to use inside person class, and then we will see how Hibernate understands it and create its reference. Password here, password here. Fine. So let's go back to Eclipse, and here we are, and inside entity package I'll create these two classes. So new Java class. Let me create passport first. Passport is here. Private int ID, private string country, and then this way. Go away. Okay, so generated data setters for it. So this isn't just a normal class. I have to convert it into an entity class, a Pojo class it is right now. So first you have to use entity package annotation, then use at ID. There we are. Okay, so now this becomes an entity object. Now same way I have to create one more class person. So I'll copy this, paste it. Please type your own code. Just for sake of the time, I'm copy pasting it, but type your own code. Don't copy paste unless you're not getting or a clear idea what's happening. So this is a person class, person ID, and this has to be gone away. So let me clear it out, creating a new field, name, then generate, get setters, done. Okay, so what we just did so far, we have created one passport class, one is person class, and now I have to create a mapping between passport and person. So in person class, that's what we saw. We have to create one more reference, passport reference. So here we are. Let's create one more reference, private passport type, and it want to be passport. Done. Okay, now it is showing yellow color because it is saying the value is private. So generate its getter setter. Let's generate it. Okay, done. You already know how to generate getter setters. That's why I'm using shortcuts to generate it. Okay, so class is ready with all three fields and their getter setters. Cool. Now what? Let's create its tester. So inside this class, I'll copy any random class, name it 121 tester. It's going to be a main method. Let's clear, oops, lots of comments. My bad. I shouldn't pick this class. Let's close this. Okay. Okay, so our skeleton is ready, or that you can say the template is ready for us to move further. Okay, so what I'll do, I'll try to instantiate both classes here, and then we will call save method. That's the whole idea, right? When we call save method, then we will see what happened or how Hibernate understands our requirement and create tables accordingly. Because on Java side, it is has a relationship. So how Hibernate pretends it and how it understands, that we have to see. So we'll start with any class. So you can pick any class. I'm picking passport equals and new passport. Then passport ID, set ID, let's say 1, passport dot set country, let's say India. Okay, now I'm going to create a person here. Person equals a person. Then let's say person dot set ID 1, person dot set name, let's say Ram, person dot set passport, and we already have a passport object that's right on line 16. So I can copy it, and once we are done, so how many objects we have created for talking about entity classes. Okay, sorry, I forgot one more thing. Once you have a class, you have to map it in configuration file. I missed that completely. Let's do this. Okay, so first is, again, sequence doesn't matter, you can keep it in any sequence. Person. Okay, path is coming up, that's great. Yeah, so I was saying how many objects we have created for entity. Two objects, one for passport, one for person. So that means I have to call save method 2 times because both are now entity classes, so their object must be saved. So I'll say session dot save. So I can save person, the next object could be passport. So if we have 10 objects, so that means for now, for our understanding, whatever we have understood so far, if we have 10 objects, newly created object in this file, so you have to call save method 10 times. Yep, that's what works. Okay, so looks fine to me. Let's see. Well, by the way, it won't work. Let's see what we get, the exception. Then we'll fix it. So run the application. So nothing, just we got one line. Let me copy it and let's see what it says. Let me zoom it so you guys can read it. It says could not determine the type. I guess we saw this kind of error earlier as well when we were dealing with collections. Same thing is here. It was earlier it was not understanding the collection type. Now it failed to understand what is passport here. It didn't complain for ID or the name because it by default it knows that it is ID and this is string. but it fails to understand what is passport, because passport is acting as a entity and it doesn't understand the type here. Till here, Hibernate is sure that this is actually an entity class. But as soon as we use this reference or this class as a reference in person class, it fails to understand. Even it clearly mentioned here. What it says, could not determine type. Type is password. There it is. At table person. This is the table person. For column, which column? Small passport. So you can see it is capital P. This is small. So which column? For passport column. This one. So it creates column ID, it creates column name, it should create column passport, and it fails to understand. What is that? So when we did collections, where is that? Don't know, let me check employee or not this one. Oh, I need to check student, not this one. User maybe, employee then. Let me use that. There it is on student. So you guys can see when I was using list of collection, list of string or the subject, it fails to understand. So I have clearly mentioned or explicitly mentioned that this is a collection type, element collection. So something similar we have to do, and I already gave the answer. If you are dealing with one-to-one mapping, there's one annotation you have to use at one-to-one, and I haven't used it yet. So let's go back, and I will use it on person class. See, you guys can do the reverse as well. You can map this person to passport and use the annotation here. So you have to decide which class you have to take as your primary class. So right now I'm taking person class as my primary class. So you have to think as per, and you can discuss over with the guys or whatever you can do, but you have to discuss which class you want to act or which you want to treat as a primary class or which will act as a primary class, so you can connect multiple other entities to this class. Think about person is here. Now I'm talking about passport. Later the person will have department, person will have address, person will have some more managers. So think about how many entities are out there, and those entities can be combined here. But think if you have to do that on passport, so passport cannot be combined with multiple things, maybe one or two. So that you have to take the weightage which has more significance in your project and accordingly decide, okay, this class can be act as a primary class here. So if that class is primary class, that means all the objects will get mapped here. Like here I have mapped passport, maybe department, maybe manager, maybe address. That way you can go on. So it's totally up to you. As per the requirement you can pick. So I have treated person as my primary class, so that I have done here on person, and then I can go at one-to-one. That's it. Just this solution and things will be good. So let's close it, clear it, turn it again. Okay, now going to run this again from main method. Right click, run as application. And yes, it's working now. So you guys can see Hibernate creates two tables, passport table and person table. Yep, that's what we are expecting. And did multiple things. Primary key tree is created and some more thing has been done. We will see later. Then some alter happened for person class. This alter for previous student class, so leave it. And then insert into person, insert into passport, and then one update happened for person class. Okay, multiple things are happening. So let's copy this. I will remove that extra line. Extra line means okay, let me show you what's the fix for this. Then we will go forward. So to fix that, to fix this issue, you have to use that one-to-one annotation in that class, in person class. Okay. Okay, and then here I can highlight this annotation fixed that issue at one-to-one. So it explicitly tells that here we are talking about mapping. So it treats that class as one different entity, which is going to be mapped here. Okay, now I was talking about the queries here. Let me highlight it again. Read, copy it. These are the queries has been triggered by Hibernate. I'll give it table in a minute. Let's remove person, student, not required. Passport, select, append, then insert, then this. Okay, now all are related to person or passport class. Save this as well. Fourth image. Let's go back and pick what we did. So I haven't added any code yet. Okay, let me show you the table first, then we'll do this. So let me refresh. Two more table has been inserted. Let's check the person class first. So it has ID, name, and the passport ID. That means it's a primary key of previous table. The person table has this. And if I take out passport, it has ID and name. Someone is um, unmuted. Can you please mute yourself? So we have passport which contains ID and country. That's it. So it is just taking only two columns specific to passport. But here, as we said, that person class will act as a primary table or primary class. So Hibernate did what? It creates a third column, and there it manages all the mentioned uh, ID which we have given there. So it becomes passport ID. Okay, so that's how it works. Great. And now I can go forward with the code. Let me put everything on here. This is plus. Yes.
Pankaj, in the passport ID,
Mm-hmm.
instead of just giving a number, can we just give like a unique number generator or something like that?
Yes, you can always customize the process. Usually when we are working on this, so we follow along the integers. It could be integer, it could be long. But yeah, if you want to give your own generators, so that will take some more complex code, because there you have to write a logic actually behind the scene, that how you want to
Right.
proceed. But yeah, it's possible. You can give your own logic, like how it should generate. So it actually creates a third table where it manages all the stuffs. Here
Okay.
it manages in sequences. I don't see
Okay.
it.
Yeah.
It will see here. Uh, no, it's not here. It is not showing. Usually it creates third table which creates sequences, and it manages all the numbers. We haven't usually when we auto generate it right now, we are giving it hard coded way. If you guys have noticed, every time when I was giving ID, it was hard coded, right? ID here one, ID one for password here. So I have hard coded it. I can give it even handed here. But think about if I have to auto generate it. So that is also possible. We will do in a minute after this example. But yeah, if you want to write your own logic, that is also possible. Because I haven't covered yet the auto generation, that's why I'm not discussing on. Close this file. Person needs this. Copy it. And this is for getters and setters. Okay, that's the next class. And then finally the actual tester, which do the stuffs for us. Let's get a new paint. So this is the code which is doing the part here. It's going to be fifth image done. And as an impact, when we successfully execute it, we should see two tables. One holds the primary key of other table, and this has just the records of it. This is person table. This is what is that? Passport table. Okay, so that's how one-to-one mapping works. Okay, so now next is how to uh, generate primary keys. We will discuss about one-to-many in tomorrow's class, not today, because that will take at least 30 to 40 minutes. So that topic will remain middle. So next topic is how to generate primary keys. It's a small part, and let's not do it here. It will complex the stuff. Or I can do it here, not an issue. So now we understood what is one-to-one mapping. So if you notice here, Hibernate creates two different tables where it keeps the things. Now if you notice what it has, passport ID. What is passport ID? So passport is the table name and the ID which is used of person. It combines that name. So passport from person passport class and ID from here. It combines and then creates a third table, third column, passport underscore ID. In upcoming classes, we will see some more combinations applied by Hibernate. So it will give more clarity what exactly happened here, how it is, tracking all these names and how it actually generates the name. That is a key here. Okay, now I was talking about the primary keys, primary key auto generation. So you guys can see when I was executing this code, I was doing this ID1, ID1. What if I want to generate primary keys automatically? So let's do that. So this time I just need a little change in my code. Wherever I have mentioned that this class is going to be my primary key, after that you have to add one more annotation. Just after add ID annotation, you have to type generated value. Okay, one more annotation in our list. Then you have to pick which strategy you want to use. So strategy generation, that means how it should generate. And just press Control space, you will get a list like auto, identity, sequence, table. So I can use identity. So that's what MySQL supports. You can use auto as well, but identity also works fine. Sequence, if you want to use sequence, sequence is for Oracle. So if you are using Oracle, so sequence will work for it for generating it. So that will come with the practice and with the experience that which database support which generation type. So most of the time, identity or auto will work with most of databases. So I'll copy this and I'll put the same on person class. Okay. Now, see, we already have one record. I'm not going to drop the table, so it has one ID. And now I will go back to my tester class and I'll comment this line. See, I just now comment, okay, comment, not removing it. You guys need it later. Okay, so what I just did, I have commented ID column for both classes, for passport and person. Let's change the name. Let's say USA. Fine. So we have two new objects which are supposed to go in database. Everything remains same. So I just commented ID and added some new entries because we don't have any form or any other way to uh, trigger the data. Okay, let's run the code, run as application. So this time it will just insert the record. No other query we should see, or we are getting error. What it's saying, could not execute. Okay, yeah, sorry, my bad. Because I did some changes at database level, right? What I just did, I have asked Hibernate to generate primary key, and this is actually a structural modification we did in table. So, and this gets confused because just by adding this, Hibernate assumes that it will get ID automatically, but that's not happening because it doesn't have in the table. So for the sake of that, if you do any kind of structure changes in table, so remove those tables and regenerate them. So drop, drop. Usually these kind of decisions taken earlier when you're actually planning the table. Okay, refresh. Okay, it's saying running, so it takes sometimes time. You have to wait. Let me stop the server side from here side. Okay, okay, it's gone. It happens sometimes, guys. If your project is running, it will block the operation on database level. So you should close any open connection. So as soon as I closed, it removes that. Okay, so it's empty, no person or passport class. Let's go back to tester, and this time again it will create a table, but there will be a difference in table generation. Okay, so these are the queries. Let me copy again. Paint, pasted. Okay, now if you notice here, when it creates passport or person table, you will see there's a line auto increment, which is actually not present in previous generated table. Let me show you that as well here. So this is the previous code, create table password, ID integer not none, and that's it. Then country, varchar, primary key, and that's it. But here when we generate, it says auto increment. So as soon as you add these lines, generated value, Hibernate understands that we are asking to create column auto-generated, this line. So let me put this here as well. Copy it, paste it. Okay. Likewise, in person, we took the same thing here. Give generated value. This is the key. Okay. Sixth. So what I want to highlight here, the primary key auto generation. That is auto increment here, and next one is also here. This one is here, passport. This is for person. Okay, and let's give it color. So this is for passport, it goes here. This is for person, it goes here. Okay, fine. So that's the impact, and let's verify the table structure as well. How it looks like. So how you can verify what's the table structure, what it has, the column types. Go back to database. Let's refresh. So you can see, oh, my bad, not this one, person and passport. So you can see ID is still generated. We haven't given it, and still we have ID. One here and one here with new entries. This is Shyam here, and this is USA here. Okay, and if you open any class, let's say this, and I'll create table inspector. Click table inspector, columns, indexes. Not here. I think I need to alter for that. Alter table. Yeah, there you can see the auto incremental is checked here. So that's how Hibernate detects it. Indexes, and you guys can see in this table we have person and column passport IDs here, and which is actually a foreign key, FKBK this one. So if you see any name given by database, so we have two foreign keys here. In person class, the foreign key is passport ID. In that student subject where we have a collections example, student has all the detail and subject has different list of it. So there was a foreign key which is student ID. So how you can do that? Right click and click on table maintenance. So it will give you a list of all the stuffs, indexes and stuff. So there you can see for which table what the things are here. Primary key where it is unique, and sequences and the stuffs you can check out here. So this is about how you can do mapping and how to generate primary keys. I'll take a screenshot of these two lines. So whatever annotation you use, maybe for the new guys who are new to database, they would understand it. But this is the impact of using just one annotation, and at database level, lots of thing happens.
Pankaj, I have a question here.
Yeah, please go on.
When we give in large number of data uh, uh, to the database, and will it gives immediately, or will it take much time?
I didn't get it. Like when you are fetching records, that way you're saying?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you have to make indexes for it. Usually it is supposed to be done by DBA guys. Every project has their team members. If they don't have any DBA, so that means developer has to do that. So basically they have to do indexing. So most of the database or their UI supports that section which say indexing. So you can perform that indexing. So retrieval is much faster.
Okay,
Okay, so indexing is the way to fetch records much faster. If you have millions of records, so definitely you cannot just fetch every record. Usually, even nobody is going to go in database and fetch all the many records. It goes in a pagination way. So two things you have to manage. First, on your backend side, where you're actually writing the backend code, there you have to perform indexing. Pagination, And backend side, database level, you have to perform indexing. So it's a two-way process.
Okay. Or is it like every time we have to optimize the code
No, code level you
or the
cannot do
query?
anything. No, code cannot do anything. Think about, doesn't matter. Think about, you have a let's say a well where you have a water, okay, a well, and you have one bucket. You have to put water. So the what's the bottleneck here? The bucket. Think about, you have a motor there. So when you put a motor there, then you
Mhm.
can fetch much faster the water from the well, right? Or the lake.
Right.
So it's not
Yes.
about lake, it's about the lake and what's the medium you're using. So the lake has water and all the stuffs there, or the well has all the data. It's about how you're fetching it.
Right.
So
Right.
you either you can
Okay.
go in the middle of the well or the lake and pull water and then come out on the corners or the sides, then you stop it, or you can just go on the side. And so it's always, technique how you're using it.
Okay. Got it.
Okay, fine. So this is the end of today's class. We just performed one-to-one mapping, and okay, I was selecting something here. This is our primary key, and this, sorry, foreign key, and this is our primary key. This foreign key is mapped with passport class. What is big? Okay, and this one is for person class. Okay. Okay, so just by doing or adding one generation type, what we actually learned how it performs primary key and foreign key mapping.